I'd like to call the Lane County Board of Commissioners meeting to order for this November the 1st. Wow, we're flying by. We'll start off with adjustments to the agenda. Do we have any adjustments this morning? Okay. Public comments. Do we have public comments this morning? None. Wow. Okay. Then we'll move to item 3, which is today, I guess it's going to be remonstrance or other issues from the commissioners. Do we have any comments this morning? Commissioner Sorensen?
Well, thank you very much. I see that our county administrator and several of our commissioners have I voted stickers. And I just want to mention that the election is going on, that the ballots will be counted accurately after the balloting has been concluded on Tuesday, 1 week from tomorrow, and that those people who have not voted are cordially invited to vote if they're authorized to do so. And I think it's an opportunity in the United States to celebrate some of the freedoms that we have, and one of those is to pick our elected leaders, usually every 2 years in our big national election, where our entire U.S. House of Representatives is up for re-election. Our entire Oregon House of Representatives is up for election, and half of our Oregon State Senate and roughly 1/3 of our U.S. Senate. So it's a very important election, not to mention the national election for Vice President and President.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Farr?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And not to mention you and I, Pete. Just a couple of things very quickly, Mr. Mokrowski. We had our Poverty and Homelessness Board retreat last week, and one of the things that we talked about at the retreat was more or less a celebration for the things that have been accomplished in the first year and a half or so that the board's been actively engaged. The Poverty and Homelessness Board is a county board, and it's staffed and funded by the county, but it is an intergovernmentally occupied board. So we have elected members from the City of Eugene, City of Oak Ridge, for instance, and really a lot of things have happened in the first year, including housing 404 homeless veterans, which was a direct result of work of the Poverty and Homelessness Board. The Nightingale Shelter is a result of the Poverty and Homelessness Board, and a lot of other things surrounding housing. We have initiatives surrounding housing, and we are working on a goal of creating 600 permanent low-income housing units between now and 2021. We'll talk more about that as it gets close to maturity, as far as what the goal is. We expect to get a committee together by the end of January to work toward that, and it's going to be aggressive, and it's also enthusiastic, but it is something that we can accomplish, and it'll involve tiny housing, regular housing. It'll involve working with HUD on habituality standards and various things to make certain that we are beginning to address what the City of Eugene wanted to call an emergency last year. That we can't use the word emergency because that is kind of the state's purview, and so we're working very strongly toward that, and you'll see and hear input as information as we move forward. The other thing I wanted to mention is regarding sensitivity, and regarding sensitivity that we all have surrounding the many things that we have to deal with as a Board of County Commissioners, as people, as human beings. And no matter how sensitive we try to be, there are certain things that we don't understand. I personally don't understand, and it really have to sometimes take into account that my lack of understanding should be an indication that other people don't fully understand and aren't sensitive to people's needs, to whether it be cultural, whether it be personal, whether it be medical, whatever it may be. And just wanted to point out something that happened last night regarding sensitivity. My grandson, not my DNA grandson, my daughter-in-law's elder son, suffers from autism. Not suffers. I mean, he actually is getting through it very, very well. And last night was the first night in his 12 years old, 8th grader, 7th grade in age, but an 8th grader. So we went out trick-or-treating last night. I decided toward about 7:30, I went out with Dio. Dio is Latino. And we knocked on a lot of doors, and we went, the last door we were going to go to, we knocked on the door, and the man came to the door, and Dio's tall, and he looked at Dio, shook his head and said, "Seriously?" Now, I don't know what that meant, but what it did to Dio and his autism is it made the entire evening invalid. The first time that Dio had ever gone out and had the courage to knock on doors and say, "Trick or treat," the last door that they knocked on, we knocked on, the man said, "Seriously?" Now, I bit my tongue. I didn't say a word, and we went home, but I kind of stewed on it all evening long. So it points out to me that we have to try to be aware of things, and even in our realization that we aren't aware of things that affect people deeply with the things that we say, we have to be personally sensitive that the things that affect us can easily affect other people. And Dio, I will say that after that door, I decided we're going to go knock on another door. I didn't want that to be Dio's last chance. So we went over to Todd and Christina Payne's house, who live just down the block from us, and Dio was welcome with open arms there. So that being said, sensitivity is something that we all have to be aware of, and I'm not talking for anybody else other than myself right now. That it came painfully home to me last night that there are so many things that affect people just by a word, a nod, a stare, a glance, that we really have to be very, very sensitive to other people's needs. And the reason I'm saying this out loud is because it came home to me last night. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to item 4, which is emergency business. I don't believe we have any today, is that correct?
No, we do not.
The next item is 5. It's our consent calendar. We have several items on there today. All of these items are considered to be routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be acted on in one motion. For those folks that are interested in the items, you're welcome to go to our lanecounty.org website, click on the agenda for the day, and each item has supplemental material attached to it. If you click on the item that gives a supplemental material, you can read about each item that we've made a decision on. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Farr.
I move passage of the Board of County Commissioners November 1st consent calendar.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And aye, no opposed, to pass unanimous. Thank you. Item 6 is our county administration announcements. Mr. Mokreisky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I just have a couple items. I thought I'd talk about elections a little bit here. Have my I voted badge, as many of the commissioners do. We have 295 registrations in this election. The ballots received through Monday, October 31st, are 69,153, or 28% of registered voters at this point in time. And that is in line with the voter turnout for 2008, which was a little over 87%. So again, 28% of ballots have been returned as of yesterday. All 21 drop site locations are open. We also have 1,027 voters in Lane County who've signed up for the new ballot track service that we have available. I signed up for this. It's really easy to do. You go on our website, lanecounty.org/elections, and you can ask for notification. It's a free service that is being provided to us by the Secretary of State's office. 12 counties in Oregon are participating in this. So Lane County is one of 12 counties doing this track your ballot alert system. So you can go again on our website, lanecounty.org/elections, and it's great. You can sign up for a text message, email, or phone call, or all of them. And you will get a notification via those formats that you sign up for once your ballot is sent to you in the mail. And then you'll get a notification once you return your ballot and it's received by elections. You'll get a notification that it was received. So great thing. Again, I signed up for it. It worked wonderfully. I got an email that day verifying. I get an email a couple days later saying your ballot has been mailed out, and then I got an email once it was received by our elections office. So great free service that voters can access at lanecounty.org/elections. I also thought that I would provide a brief update for the board. We've been working with the City of Eugene on a road reconstruction project that the City of Eugene is pursuing. This is reconstruction of Lincoln Street from 11th through 5th Streets. And if you drive by there, you'll see signage. We've worked with City of Eugene to get wayfinding signage put up. Obviously, this is right in front of our elections office at the busiest, arguably the busiest and highest participation of any election in history in Lane County. So the timing of the project is obviously problematic and deeply concerning to Lane County, to our elections team, and to voters throughout Lane County, as we have a lot of people who are coming to our elections office to drop off ballots, to have new ballots issued if there was a mistake that was made there, getting resolution to issues with signatures. Parking, I think, as everyone knows, is already a challenge in that area, and so that is exacerbated and compounded by a road construction project. But again, we've worked with the City of Eugene on this. It's my understanding that the majority of the work is going to take place today and tomorrow, weather dependent. So hopefully the weather holds out and we'll get that work done. If you receive phone calls or for any voters who are watching, please be patient, and we're doing the best we can to work with the city and the contractor to get that project resolved and make sure that our voters have access to our elections office. Any issues, encourage people to give us a call here at the county, and we'll be happy to assist. One other item that I will just share with you, I was asked to do the keynote address for the Looking Glass annual meeting, and so that is tomorrow at the Hilton around 4:30, I believe, and so look forward to providing Looking Glass, which is just a phenomenal nonprofit organization in our community doing great work with young people and young adults and families in our community. Look forward to updating them on the great work that we believe we're doing here in Lane County to support their efforts and others in the community, and happy to provide more information after that. That's all I have, Mr. Chair, unless you have questions.
Great, thanks. Commissioner Farr?
Just a quick question, Steve. Do you suppose any of the voters live in the City of Eugene?
Majority.
That's rhetorical.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. So item 7 is county council announcements. We do have multiple items in executive session following this morning, so I don't know that there's any further announcements from council. Item 8 is commissioner's business, so we'll start off with announcements. Commissioner Lyken.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First announcement is last week, the Port of Portland was in town and had a reception over at the Oregon Electric Station. It was well attended. And we got to hear from Curtis Robinhold, who's the deputy director of the port. And Curtis is actually from here. He's from Eugene, Lane County. In fact, his father's a retired physician, so he knows our area quite well. But it was interesting. Of course, they give updates on what's happening in Terminal 6. And I think a lot of the folks forget or do not know or do not understand that they actually have two other terminals, Terminals 4 and 5, that are actually very, very successful and doing quite well. This is the primarily the automotive terminals, and this is where the Toyotas and Hondas that are exported from Japan are actually unloaded at the Port of Portland. And they also have a contract with Ford, and they export Ford automobiles from the Port of Portland to China. And so while I think the media and others, and not just the media, but a lot of folks want to concentrate on Terminal 6 because that's the container terminal. And the container industry as a whole is in a mess. And so it's just not the Port of Portland issue. But he wanted to give an update on that. I did bend his ear a little bit because what I'm hearing, and when we had our joint meeting with the Oregon Freight Advisory Committee with the ACT, the Area Commission on Transportation, we actually talked about the potential of what is a a regional transload facility look like? Where would it be located? And because I think the more the opportunity you have for a lot of bulk, that's when you can actually potentially put together agreements with the Class A railroads. We have two of them, of course. That's Union Pacific and Burlington Northern, Santa Fe, BNSF. And because right now a lot of our ag business, instead of being shipped out of the Port of Portland, is being either trucked, primarily trucked to either Tacoma or to the Port of Oakland. And it would be great if there's this opportunity for a transload facility to be built here because of the major ag business that not only happens in Lane County, but in Lynn County. And so you have our two counties that could potentially see some good success there. There's been some conversation, but I see no reason why we can't maybe heat that up a little bit. Congressman DeFazio gave a very good remarks there as well. But it was, like I said, it was well attended, and it was good to have them here. They're doing a road show, basically, and reminding folks that they're not associated with the city of Portland. They're the state's port. The Port of Portland, they're its own subdivision of the state, and set up like Lane County or any other county in the state is set up, so with its own operation. But good to have Curtis. I know Bill Wyatt well, and he's the current director, and he is probably going to be retiring here in the next 2 or 3 years, I'm guessing. And Kurt to me it would be a very good replacement for Bill to keep the success going. And he also wanted to let us know that the Port of Portland, the Portland International Airport, by the rating systems out there on airports, was actually rated the #1 international airport in the United States, and based on efficiency, based on time. So it's great to have our own major airport in the state of Oregon as the #1 rated airport in the country. And so that was obviously one that they're very excited about. I did ask, and I've asked this of Bill, and that is, do they feel confident that they're going to be able to handle the capacity, not only with the Eugene Airport, but the Portland Airport during the World Games of 2021. 220 countries flying in all at once. I mean, that's pretty significant. Their feeling is absolutely, and they feel very confident that they will be able to handle that capacity. And so I think having the fact that we have our own airport here is successful, but also Portland International is good. But I just wanted to report on that. It was an excellent reception. I was very pleased I could attend. And then just wanted to quickly, next week I've been invited to sit on a group to an interview panel to do an assessment of the Oregon Department of Transportation. So I'm looking forward to that. They're actually getting ready to go through a major audit of the managing function, and they've asked me to sit on as far as the interview panel is concerned, to just give an overall assessment based on experience of ODOT. I can tell you our local office, I believe our local office does a very good job, and Region 2 with Sonny Chickering in that position also, I think, does a good job as well. So it'll be interesting to go through that. I believe it's 2 hours long, so that'll be pretty interesting to, going through and talking about being asked questions, but also providing questions to the group that's going to be looking at the potential audit of ODOT. So looking forward to that. Thank you.
Okay. Next, Commissioner Bozievich.
Thank you. So it's glad to be back in the USA after being outside the country for a short while last week. Fascinating to go through the Panama Canal as an engineer. and the Canal Museum in the older portion of Panama City, if you ever get down there, I recommend it to anybody. It's not so much about the engineering, but the actual history of the relationship between the U.S. and the country of Panama over the duration of the canal zone was fascinating and a really interesting aspect of history that all of you would enjoy. I did also miss the 18th meeting because I was in Portland at the Cleaner Air Advisory Committee, sitting on behalf of the Association of Oregon Counties, and at the request of the governor. It was a good meeting. We went through a lot of material. It was a long meeting, though. They started us off at 9, made us work through lunch, and didn't let us out of there till after 5. And I can say one thing, I'm so glad I don't have to drive in Portland traffic daily. But the next meeting, I'm going to end up missing the last day of AOC's annual conference because it's that day. And then there's a follow-up meeting in December. And then after those 3 meetings, we'll start back up in the spring and finalize the work as they looking at air toxics and additional regulation of air toxics. And I believe City Club has a program coming up this week on air toxics and other toxics that Merlin Howe, the executive director of El Rapa, will be speaking at. So if you're interested in that subject, you might want to go to City Club this week. Also, yesterday, attended the PSCC Budget Committee as we're looking at some budget amendments that'll come to the board. Pretty minor adjustments as some programs aren't spending the full amount of what they thought, so we're moving money around because it's kind of a use it or lose it every biennium budget. But it was really impressive working with the partners there on the programs they're doing to divert people from the prison system and where we're able to utilize that money and some of the good reasons why some of them are falling short on their spending. And the programs we reallocated the money to and how effective they're being in getting counseling right in the jail, getting people screened for mental health issues early and handed off to mental health providers, and working with early release of prisoners from the prison system down to the Lane County Jail. There's a couple beds they're utilizing there where they bring them into the jail and start them on some of the cognitive behavioral therapy and training and transition them into sponsors beds, and how successful that program's been, well over 95% success rate right now. And it's just, it reflects in our recidivism rate here in Lane County. And it's just every time I work with the Public Safety Coordinating Council, I'm really impressed in how they're working to try and divert people out of the prison system, to take the folks that have mental health issues, not really criminal issues, and get them into that system. All of the work they're doing with drug court, veterans court, and keeping people out of the system, it's just really impressive. And also yesterday I attended a luncheon for the 15th night effort that is John Rees, Greg Irwin, and Grace Serbu are putting forward here. You all have probably heard me mention the 15th night maybe once or twice in board meetings over the past 5 years. Kind of a pet project of mine. The city of Eugene is making a really strong effort to work not just on the emergency services of homeless youth, once they're on the street, trying to get them off the street, but they're trying to get a system put in place to identify at-risk youth and get them the service at that time before they get on the street. And so they're working this particular project. The pilot is to try and work with 4J and Bethel and working with school resource officers and counselors there. If they identify a youth that's at risk, to try and get them connected with whatever they need to keep them off the street. They hear a kid is getting ready to run away. Well, why is that? Instead of, somebody says, we really want to get a tent for this kid. Well, why are they in a tent in the first place? And trying to keep them off the street. I think it's a really helpful thing, something our community needs to understand. Youth homelessness is not the big number that overall homelessness is. And if we can work on preventing youth homelessness and getting those kids off the street in the first night or two so they don't become chronic adult homelessness, because if they spend more than 2 weeks on the street, that's why that 15th night's there, they have an 80% chance of being chronically homeless as an adult. So if we can deal with the small numbers, and they're talking about there's 300 kids in the 4J and Bethel system that are technically homeless in some way, where they're moving around, and about 90 of those kids drop out every year. If we can deal with those 90, preventing those dropouts and onto the street, that's not the 2,000 homeless or plus that we see in Lane County. It's a doable number, and I think it's a really important effort. and they're looking for folks to get involved. So, if you wanted to contact the city manager's office or Greg Irwin or Grace Serbu, that can connect you with the effort. Also, Brian Obie was the one that hosted the lunch over at his Inn at the Fifth. He's also involved. So I encourage folks to get involved in that effort. I think it's really about turning the pipeline off at the inlet end for homelessness and helping these kids out, becoming productive members of our society and surviving some of the tragedy they're dealing with that's none of their doing. The dysfunctional families and the addicted parents or whatever is not the kid's fault. And I think we can really help out. So it's kind of what I've been up to in between taking a short vacation.
Okay, thank you. Others? Commissioner Farr?
Thank you. Commissioner Lycan, I just wanted to publicly thank you for the work that you do beyond the county limits as far as furthering the issues, particularly important issues regarding transportation. It's great to hear the involvement that you have and the focus that you're able to bring back to the county on that. And you probably know that Greg Evans, my city councilor, just got named the National League of Cities Transportation the chair of the Transportation Committee. It is.
Surprising.
It's not surprising. He's been around the issue for quite some time, as have you. I mean, and I know you and he have worked together on a lot of issues, so it's great to see not just the coordination outside of the county, but the coordination locally and making things happen. And just wanted to mention, thanks, Commissioner Bozievich, for talking about homeless youth. It's a pretty powerful issue. The McKinney-Vento Act, which is homeless youth in education, is really active. The positions that are funded through that are really active here in the county. And Janet Thorne, who is a Springfield School District McKinney-Vento liaison, is on the Poverty and Homelessness Board. So it's coordinating efforts between school districts, between the city, between the county, and between other municipalities is very important. Back in 1998, we had a committee. It started in 1997 as a council committee on homelessness and youth that met for about 4 years. And that was a committee that was, at the time, Mayor Jim Torrey, and then Bobby Lee, who was the city councilor, and myself. And we identified a lot of issues, but a lot's changed since then. And even though many things happened in the late 90s and in the early 2000s, Commissioner Bozievich can attest to the fact that things have changed. The pressures on youth are far greater than they ever have been, and paying particular attention to it at this point in time is really important, because the homeless youth of today, if we don't assist them when it's a little bit easier potentially to assist them, then they're going to have great difficulty throughout the rest of their life when it's sometimes more difficult to assist them. And as we know, statistically, people who who fall into the 16th night, the 15th, 16th night, have issues with emergency response and issues with the potential involvement with the adult judicial system. So thanks for your work on that, Commissioner Bozievich.
Any other comments? Okay. I'll move to item B, which is agenda team requests and work session requests. Commissioner Lycan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I know Jeff is here this morning. I bet he might be here on behalf of me. I hope that's not the case, because I had a late night conversation with legal counsel last night, and by the time I got off the phone, the trick-or-treaters started pounding on the door, so I didn't get a chance to send an email out. So and I want to say thank you very much for on that particular challenge that we're going through right now with not our challenge, the constituents' challenge, but appreciate your work on that. After conferring with legal counsel, there's no need for me to have any sort of direction to staff on this issue. And but I do want to say thank you very much for the work you did, Jeff. Very appreciated. Thank you.
Others? I have a couple items to propose. Yesterday, I got to meet with Eric Peterson, who is the operations project manager with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. He gave me an update on some evaluations that they're doing on the projects, which are reservoirs in his district, and there are six of those dams or reservoirs that they're doing additional work on. And I asked him if he would like at some point, possibly after the first of the year, to come before the board and just give an update on the reservoirs and the work that they're doing, so that we have an understanding as to what they're doing. They're really just researching the projects to make sure that they can withstand certain events that take place, and I think that he was concerned that it might cause some anxiety with citizens in sharing this information. So I thought it might be a good item to schedule maybe after the first year. Is there interest in having Mr. Peterson come and talk about the reservoirs and the work they do?
Absolutely.
I'm getting a thumbs up from everybody, so we'll work with Diana to try to get that scheduled after the first of the year. The second item is that I had a really nice meeting with Mr. Johnson, getting an update regarding the Eugene Civic Alliance effort in building a new kids sports facility over on the old Civic site. He had a specific request that we possibly would support, not possibly, he's asking that the Board of Commissioners would support a request that they are going to make this next legislative session regarding funding. And I would like to ask or propose that we ask the legislative committee to review the request and make a recommendation or prepare a support letter that we can adopt, and are encouraging the legislature to look at this request seriously. So is that, do I get support to ask the legislative committee to review this and bring back a proposal? All right. Again, I got support, so thank you very much. Anything else? Okay.
Sure.
Commissioner Sorensen.
I just wanted to mention something. You know, Commissioner Farr pointed out that the McKinney-Vento Act is alive and well, and it does help with the problems of homelessness throughout the United States. And, you know, behind these words, McKinney-Vento Act, are actual people. And Stuart McKinney was a Republican representative in Congress from Connecticut. And Representative Bruce Vento was a representative from Minnesota, a Democrat. And the act is named in part because of bipartisan cooperation to get this law passed. And I think it's something worth remembering that a lot of what happens in good federal legislation involves compromise, and it involves people from different perspectives working together to get bills passed. And I think that, you know, Representative McKinney has since passed away. I think it's really great that, well, and so has Representative Vento, but I think it's great that we celebrate the fact that these people's names are on this legislation. It's good for them, it's good for their families, but more importantly, it's good for us to remember that they were actual people that actually worked together, that got the Congress and the President to sign this legislation that even to this day helps people.
Thank you. Commissioner Farr.
Are we on other business, Mr. Chair?
Well, we can move to other business now, yes?
I just wanted to mention that tomorrow, November 2nd, there's community members are invited to view and comment on possible downtown development options. And I believe that is going to be right here in Harris Hall. Is that right? At 5 o'clock tomorrow evening? And so tomorrow evening, 5 o'clock, the discussion, and we'll have, I would guess that we're going to have some drawings, some schematics, and people will have an opportunity to take a look at what the task force has been looking at over the last couple of months, and what the joint elected officials have been looking at in the last couple of meetings and that we have coming up. Pretty interesting stuff. And it's been, we have a November 14th deadline for a presentation to the Board of County Commissioners and the Eugene City Council in a joint meeting on November 14th. Tomorrow is a great opportunity to get right down here in this room and take a look at what's been going on. Thank you.
Any other business? I would just announce that we set the agenda this morning, and so next Monday evening we will have a joint meeting at Springfield City Hall. And then we have a Tuesday meeting, but it should be concluded, I believe, by noon. So you can use that however you choose, but it's a pretty light agenda. Unless we have a large executive session, we should be able to get it all done in the morning. So with that, we do have an executive session this morning that looks like it might be close to 2 hours long, so we'll get started on it. And with that, let me read the intro. So the Board of County Commissioners will meet in executive session to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations and consult with County Council concerning the legal rights and duties of the public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. This executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.660, subsection 2D and H, which allows the Board of Commissioners to meet in executive session for the purposes listed above. The representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decisions will be made in executive session. We do reserve the right to come back out into public session should the need arise. If we don't, we will be then at the conclusion of executive session recess until 1:30, where we'll come back and we have a public hearing regarding the potential code on a tobacco-free county parks policy, and also a third reading and deliberations on ordinance PA 1342. So with that, we will move our session to the Board of Commissioners conference room and start our executive session.